Bills in the early game on Sunday, and Josh Allen, this guy owns the wild card round. He is one win away from tying Joe Flacco and Brett Favre for the most wild card wins, and 3 passing touchdowns shy of tying Ben Roethlisberger for the most in the wild card round. He's also averaging over 350 passing and rushing yards combined per game. Dan, what problems does Allen and that Bills offense present for Denver this weekend?
Well, we've talked about it a ton on this show, is the 4-by-1 formation where Buffalo will consistently get into 4-by-1, and they'll do it a bunch of different ways, Hannah, meaning they'll take 1, 2, 3, 4 people, put them on one side of the line of scrimmage, and they'll put one guy backside. And defenses struggle because you don't want to create a ton of one-on-ones for a corner, and then so you'll take a safety and shade that way just to make sure you have an extra body. And so Buffalo constantly is trying to create advantages, whether it's front side, and you could have these guys be blockers on the front side, and then you can run the ball weak, and all of a sudden you have a great numbers advantage. So Buffalo's very good at getting to it a ton of different ways. One-on-one routes, an RPO or a flat route to this front side of the play, or a run weak side. Now, this is why Denver, I think, is uniquely built to handle that. Kansas City last week gets into a little bit of a 3-by-1 to start, but immediately after the snap, because the back goes that way, it creates another 4-by-1. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, this is where I believe Denver is uniquely built to handle it. The Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Patrick Surtain, what they do is they're going to take him and say, that single receiver, no matter who it is, you take him. And so often when you get into these formations as an offense, you're trying to create a one-on-one that's really good for you or outnumber somebody front side. Now, here's what happens when Patrick can handle it by himself. Number one, see the safety? He could be a run-fill guy for the weak side run because he doesn't have to worry about a deep threat. Patrick Surtain, you have that single receiver everywhere you go. And if he doesn't, or if it's not a weak side run, then what happens is they kick everything to the front side. Now, as Surtain tracks this guy, again, he's by himself, I look at it and say, well, Kansas City still has 1, 2, 3, 4 guys front side. That's still their 4-by-1. But because of Patrick Surtain, Denver has 1, 2, 3, 4 guys front side. So the outnumbering of the scheme of this is no longer prevalent. Look at the coverage that you get because you could push all these numbers to the field. There's nowhere for an offense to take advantage of it anymore. Surtain's completely by himself, and then you could still rush the passer. I believe this is a massive advantage for Denver, strictly because you could treat him like a Darrelle Revis type of player. You could put him by himself, and you're no longer weak where so many defenses are versus that 4-by-1 where Buffalo goes to it 8 to 10 times a game.
Right. He just affects so many other things in
Correct.
the game.
It's like playing with 12.
Yeah, I'm glad you called him out as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Absolutely.
Totally.
So, Mina, let's say this plays out the way that Dan laid it out. Let's say he takes away those top targets. Where should Josh Allen look?
Well, that's the beauty of the Bills' offense. They don't have a number one wide receiver who Patrick Surtain can take out. Dan makes a great point about the 4-by-1, their ability to defend it. But I actually think the Bills have something going for them in this one, which is the Denver defense, fantastic this year. Vulnerability, however, in the pass defense at the linebacker position. They are second worst in the NFL in DVOA on targets to running backs. What do the Bills have? One of the best pass-catching running backs in the entire NFL in James Cook. And this offense, I would argue, in general, under Joe Brady, is fantastic at attacking the linebacker position generally. There's a reason why on short throws, they average the most yards after catch per reception in the NFL. They're tied with Baltimore in that regard. So in my mind, this doesn't need to be a game where Josh Allen has to push the ball downfield very often because James Cook, I think, is actually their best matchup opportunity.
Meanwhile, on the other side, RC, we got 2 rookie quarterbacks here, by the way, playing this weekend with Jane Daniels and Bo Nix. So how do you expect Sean Payton to use Nix in this one?
Yeah, see, I think that's what's important, and I don't necessarily know how he's going to use them. I mean, that's the beautiful part about watching these games be played, but I think you want to try to stretch the field as much as possible, and when they are aggressive with Bo Nix, we've seen him have some success, but I think what happens with this team is sometimes when he has some of those turnovers, we watch him pull back on Bo Nix, and we saw the way that they can use someone like Mims in the screen game and allow those to create big plays. But when we watch this team sort of make that progression in the middle of the season with Bo Nix, it was because they would threaten the deep part of the field and back some of these teams up off of Bo Nix and the line of scrimmage. Now, they're going to get a ton of too high safety from the Buffalo Bills. So choosing those opportunities is going to be paramount. But we've watched Bo Nix work too high safeties or two safety defenses in the middle of the field by pressing it through the seam. And we need to see some of that for the Buffalo Bills to give them opportunities for chunk plays.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be really interesting to see how Buffalo defensively tries to rush Bo Nix. You have to treat him as one of those keep him in the pocket type of quarterbacks. And one thing that he has done this year that has hurt him is he will often leave clean pockets and run backwards and try to get out to his right. I think defensively you can bait him into doing that at times and run himself into a sack.
I suspect something Peyton does, Sean Payton in this game, is he puts him on the move a lot.
Yeah.
And that's something we've seen all year long, right? But some of this has to do with the matchup, too, because the Bills' defense is very fundamentally sound. Actually, the worst in the NFL in success rate versus quarterbacks on designed rollouts and designed scrambles.
They're so aggressive.
So
they're constantly so aggressive towards some of those play action or runs, and the boot is consistently there.
It'll be so interesting to see how he handles it in that atmosphere, his playoff debut on the road, and he's been very impressive this season. I can't wait to see it. All right, time for an ESPN Bet Sportsbook same-game parlay, and for that, we go back to Mina. Mina, over under 7.5 rushing attempts for Josh Allen in this one. What do you say?
I'm going over here. Josh Allen, big games. I usually bet the over or for the over on him carrying the football, but I think against the Broncos defense that plays a ton of man coverage, he will have a ton of scrambles in this one.
All right, let's go back to the rookie. Over under 224.5 passing yards for Nix.
Yeah, I'm going over. He's been topping this pretty consistently over the last second part of the season or so. And while I don't think a lot of it maybe will come through air yards, I do think Sean Payton's going to find a way to get his pass catchers yards after the catch against this Bills defense that plays quite soft.
And give us a player who you think's going to find their way into the end zone.
It's James Cook, whether it's as a pass catcher or on the ground. He, to me, is the most reliable red zone target for Buffalo in this one, and I suspect he will score.
All right, Buffalo currently a 9-point favorite over Denver at ESPN Bet.
All customers can get rewarded with a $5 bonus bet when you make a deposit of $25 or more at ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Head over to the app and use code HUDDLE to get started today.
And let's check out our game picks on this one. Everybody's on the Bills. Raise your hand, though, if you think there's a possibility for an upset. Okay. There we go.
I think this defense is...
Not only because they got to play the game.
I think this defense is built to handle... Josh is going to have to make some plays with his legs. This defense is a good defense, man.
Absolutely. All right, coming up, Jaden Daniels.